welcome to the farm. The Wright-Locke Farm is a local community farm in Winchester, and our mission is to engage the community in active learning, sustainable agriculture, land stewardship, and an appreciation of our historic New England farm. We do that in a bunch of different ways. We grow certified organic vegetables. We do a lot of farm-based education. We have a full calendar of events throughout the season, both public events such as this, or our popular family farm night. Then we have private events. Individuals or families can rent the barn for significant family events such as weddings and birthday parties and the like. That helps us with our revenue model. We try to be a sustainable farm and be a sustainable farm in a fashion such that our footprint is as light as possible, and we constantly strive to generate revenues that cover our expenses. And then being a nonprofit, we look to our community for support for our capital projects. That's the way we've been able to maintain our historic farmstead, this barn, our squash house, our farmhouse, and the other buildings on the property. We are in the process of launching a really exciting new building project. Our new education center is planned for where the yellow house is on the hill. And then we are in the midst of planning that, designing a building that will fit compatibly within this farm infrastructure. But what it will do is significantly expand our impact by allowing us to operate 12 months a year. We're getting to the end of our programming this year because we have no heated space for public events. So we kind of close down from November through April or early May. This building will allow us to keep doing things like our lecture series going all year round. It will help our financial model. It will also provide space for education for kids year round. We're really excited about the prospect of doing a year-round forest-based preschool / kindergarten program where kids this tall don't spend time in the classroom, but they can go from here to there. They spend time instead outside learning about nature, and we think that's going to be really impactful once we can start offering that kind of program. So I could go on for a long time, but we have a lot of really great people, chefs tonight talking. So I'm just going to introduce Kim Neyland, who is Kim, come on up. Kim is our community engagement officer, manager, and she has been instrumental in pulling our speaker series together, among many other things, but pulling our speaker series together. And so I'll pass the mic off to Kim, who can say a few words and introduce our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Archie. Awesome. Thank you all again for coming this evening. It is wonderful to see, just a full barn on such a great evening. And it's just been such a pleasure for me to organize this speaker series because I get to, delve into all these topics and really get to know a lot of our speakers. And this session particularly has been really exciting to me for a couple different reasons. One, also because this is our first panel session of the speaker series. This is actually our 10th session total, so it's kind of exciting to have come, this far after 2 years. Another reason is that I am here at the farm because of chefs. My, growing up, food and, watching the Food Network and everything was kind of, that was my niche. I wasn't into sports as a kid, and just cooking and then starting to get in the garden, and I started baking wedding cakes and doing decorations, and food was just such an intriguing topic to me. And then through college, it kind of led me to discover so much more, and food system, you can connect anything to food. And so really it was my love of cooking and the inspiring chefs in my life that brought me to to just come to this amazing place, start doing some farming, but then also just be able to delve into, healing the food system in this way and by participating in an amazing community farm. So, so that's kind of the impetus for this talk was, hey, we've got so much to learn from these amazing people doing amazing work to really reconnect people with food. And so we've got here tonight a bunch of examples of people doing some great work to further health, people thinking more about what they're eating, where it's coming from, and because there's a lot of background between what's the whole farm to fork idea. There's a lot behind every bite that you have. So that's kind of the background for this talk. So again, our chefs tonight are going to be delving into what, why and how they connect people to food and how they're doing that. Basically how it'll work is we're going to have a little introduction from each of them. They'll do some slides. After that, we'll kind of roll up the projector and we'll put everybody up on stage and we'll start doing the discussion part. And then we'll kind of start off with some of maybe our questions, and then we'll kind of wrap in the audience questions as well. So definitely if you've got questions, start thinking about what you want to ask. So to turn our attention to our chefs tonight, you will see... First, we'll hear from Chef Vittorio Torre, who owns Bistro 5 in West Medford and Tavola in Winchester, where he's been instilling in the community his own love and appreciation for good, real food. He also started Seed to Plate, the Seed to Plate program at Ambrose Elementary School, so that the kids could see what it is to plant, care for, harvest, and cook their own food. And then we will hear from Lori Deliso, who is over 25 years of restaurant experience and is a co-founder of the Lexington Farmers Market, co-owner of Dave's Fresh Pasta, and a co-owner of Kids Cooking Green, which you'll definitely hear more of in her presentation. Then we will hear from Chef Frank McClelland, and he is owner and chef of L'Espalier in Boston, which is the most decorated independent restaurant in New England. And he himself has, of course, won more awards than I can read out today. But and he was an early... I've got 2 pages. This is what 3-4 speakers does. You have lots more papers. But he was an early advocate for really farm-to-table dining and that philosophy. So it's a pleasure to have him here with us today. And then, as I mentioned in my email, for those who RSVP'd before yesterday, we have a surprise chef, and he is actually our own neighbor as well, but some of you may know Chef David Bazirgan, right? Close. Bazirgan. Okay, there we go. But he is executive chef over at Bambara in Cambridge. He was a native of New England and but moved over to the West Coast for a good chunk of time. He was a mentee of Barbara Lynch and has done some amazing work out West, but finally kind of came back to us in 2016. And he's even he's volunteered with his wife and family over with our chickens. So he knows the farm fairly well, and we are so happy to have him here. He's going to be our discussion moderator today, so I won't have to be doing all of the questions this time. So super lucky to have these wonderful chefs here tonight. So yeah, with that, we will jump right in, and you'll get to hear from everybody and have some fun, everybody.
So for those who are just looking at my bald head, I might have to do this. There you go. Okay, here I am. All right. So my name is Vittorio. I am the chef and owner of Bistro 5 in Tavola here in Winchester. Bistro 5 has been around for 20 years now, so almost 20. It's grown up. When Kimberly proposed this to me, I was very excited because this is a project that I've had for 7 years now, and it's been great. It's going to keep on growing. And I developed this in 2011 with the idea of of really trying to, basically what we're doing here right now, which is trying to connect, people with food and where it comes from. Now, to most of us, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, we all know where food comes from, but I think there is a big disconnect, and that where I saw the most of the disconnect was in young people and in children. And they were amazed that carrots, grow from the ground, and little things like that we know, sometimes kids just don't know. And I was really so with that, I was inspired to try to come up with a program that could, teach, children in general about food, right? So again, this is in 2011. So let me see if we get to that. Okay, here we go. So this is the garden. The garden is located just down the street, about a mile down, at the Sanborn House. This was just a leveled, this was just a yard basically, and I put in some, trucks. We leveled it. We put a shed. We built the whole thing from scratch. We actually used some of the stones that were here. Those are left over from a construction from the Ambrose School, actually. I just saw them laying around somewhere. I'm like, whoa, we need that. So I thought, we put that into the garden. So the idea is, the way the program works, basically it's for 4th and 5th graders. They start in 4th grade, and with the spring salad growing, and then they do the summer planting, which is around June, and then in the fall when they come back, they have a full garden, and then that's when we do the harvest, and by then they're in 5th grade. Okay. What the garden really provides is a hands-on experience, but it's a hands-on experience where they really truly see from the seed, and it really is to the plate. They see it from the very, very beginning to the very, very end. But not only that, they actually see the cycle of it as well, because we take, a cucumber and then we let it grow really big, and then we take the seeds and we dry them and we grow them again the next year, right? So they get to see also the sustainability and the possibility, and also realize that with one cucumber, you can have a whole field worth. So, but again, these concepts are not really, kids don't have this concept. In fact, most adults don't. So, but anyway, so observing, I think the whole thing, it makes a really big difference. And I actually made this also financially sustainable, and I do talk about that to them because, I don't know, like my parents always say, money doesn't grow on trees. And it's really, we can grow everything but money. So, and I do want to teach them that we can't just make something like this up and then deal with it. Somebody will pay. Well, no one is going to pay. So we're going to have to come up with something that we can sustain the garden. And we came up with the idea of doing a fundraiser. And the fundraiser is on the first part of the year, which is somewhere in, as soon as the snow melts, basically, we plant the whole garden. We make it full of, we do all salad, only greens, from mizuna to arugula to baby romaine to you name it. With that, we select we call it the green group. So it's kids that really want to do this, not the whole grade, because it's like 100 kids. So it's no joke when it comes down to gardening and keeping them inside the garden. That's not an easy task. Definitely not easy. Next thing you know, you turn around and they're everywhere. So we chose a small group of kids who really want to do it. And then what happens is they grow the greens. They see them grow the whole time. Then they pick them. They wash them. And then we spread out the greens into both restaurants. And then the kids, for 3 straight days, the children who do this part of the program, they get to go to the restaurant. They get all dressed up, go to the restaurant, and actually make the salad for the guests. They do their own presentation. They have a plate, and the plate has the name of the green and the name of the green. Because, when was the last time that we looked at a salad and actually named what's in it? I mean, it's not that easy. Unless you're in the business, it's really not that easy to figure it out what's in the salad mix. So the kids go to the table, they actually, talk to the guest, and then they basically are selling the salad. They sell the salad, and all the proceeds go right back into the garden. We buy seeds, mulch, fix it, we do whatever we have to do. And this is probably the coolest part of the program, which I can, talk about a little bit more, but and then we do the summer planting. The summer planting is very simple. Right before they go on vacation, about 3 to 4 weeks before, we do the planting at the garden, but they bring it inside the school, so they put them under light, and then all the plants grow, and every day they walk by them, and they water them, and they see the plants grow, and then each group of like 3 kids, they plant about maybe 10 to 12 plants, and then those kids take them outside, and then they see them grow. And then when they come back from the summer, they come back in September for classes again, they see what they have done, right? Which is, again, like, it's an experience that, it's not, you don't get that everywhere, right? So, and that's the summer planting, is basically planting everything, and we plant things that will be ready in September to October, right? Then we do a garden tour. In the garden tour, we talk to the kids about what went right, what went wrong, and what can we do differently next year to do it better, right? And we point out the things that went wrong, right? Whether beets this year didn't make it because the timing didn't work out with the school and everything else, and we took them out too early, so they were too young, and they just, and also it was more like a buffet for the rabbits anyways. Yeah. And then the harvesting and eating is the most beautiful part, which is really cool, because kids, the expression that you see on the kids' face when they harvest something they've grown is something that you have to experience in order to really understand it. It's really, really cool. And as you can see here, these are some of the kids. We're making salad here inside the restaurant. She's serving it. I mean, this is not fake, right? This is not fake, right? This is mom right here. This is not fake. Look how happy she is. That's her daughter. She's focused, obviously. But that's the thing. So this is a really, it's a really great experience for them. And that's the summer planting. We all get out and just have fun. All the teachers are out there too. And it's some of the stuff that we grow. Just to get corn. I mean, the corn, we never had to cook it. They went there, grabbed it. Can we eat it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't think it's great raw, but maybe. So we actually end up eating everything that we plant. We eat it raw, period. Beets was another thing, raw beets. So my people may think like, I don't know, maybe. But you know what? Olive oil, a little salt, shave it thin enough, it's game. And I have actually learned to eat raw beets with them, it's been really great. And it's one of their favorite foods, which is, again, try to convince a kid to eat beets in the first place. But here, it's possible. And this is us. Actually, this was just recent, just last week. And this is us just making, these are like all the kale. We've got some, cucumbers. And these are the kids all lining up for kale. I mean, seriously. I mean, just think about that for what I just said, right? It's not really, this is not even natural anymore. And again, the expressions is what is the honesty, the sincerity, the shock factor. It's what really makes an amazing connection to food. So some of the other things that I do besides this program is also mentoring programs. I've been doing this for actually much longer than the City Play. This has probably been for actually 17 years or something crazy like that. And basically, kids approach me, and it's through school, through Ambrose, pretty much all the schools in Winchester. And then I have 2, 3, 5 kids, depending on what. And then we make up some sort of I talk to the kids, see what they want to do. And then after that, we come up with some sort of a schedule, and they spend time with me in the kitchen. And these are kids that want to be chefs, so they just want to learn how to cook. She's awesome. She's, actually, let me go back. Where did I go? There you go. She's also my neighbor. She's looking at college right now, by the way. She's looking at colleges, okay? She was only 11 there, all right? And And that's it. So that's the other one. And then my last edition is cooking camps. Again, another way of connecting young minds with food. And this is pretty awesome, which is we do this at the restaurant every summer, and kids absolutely love it. Then, of course, we do our own chopped. And you cannot, actually, I was seriously impressed with what they did. I mean, these tortellini right here, I mean, they're no joke. I can't get half of my staff to do this. So I'm very, very happy with what they're doing. So that's pretty much it for me to connect people with food, really. Again, at a Tavola, I also have a garden in the back. Some of you, if you go on the parking lot, you probably see it. But that's just another way of connecting people with food. And then finally, at Bistro 5, we have our great tasting menus, and I dedicate tasting menus to a specific thing that I really, truly love. Whether right now is a tomato tasting, 5 courses, all tomatoes. And then we have 5 courses, all peach, all strawberry, all things that I think they're the best things in season at that time. And that's that. Otherwise, I'll be here all night. So, thank you.
I know, it's still a little red lights on.
She's good.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Deliso, and I also teach kids to cook. That's pretty much what my program is. And it started at the Lexington Farmers Market, actually, years back. And I'm going to go through a few notes here because I didn't want to forget anything. But yeah, I was a co-founder of the Lexington Farmers Market, and that started like maybe 15 or 16 years ago. And after a few years of working at the market and being introduced to amazing farmers and vendors, I had this idea that I thought we should share this wealth of information with the farmers or vendors with kids. And I really feel and felt like then that there's a lot of cooking programs out there, yours being wonderful, and we've worked together with kids before. But I wanted to have a real formal program that stressed real cooking, hands-on cooking, and emphasizing the importance of local food, our New England food heritage, where it comes from, the seasons, because kids sort of forget all this stuff. It's kind of funny. I mean, adults too, we forget it. And then I wanted kids to understand the impact on the environment and on our own bodies, and that they can actually have a say in this by what they put into their body, by what we plant in the ground. So this all came about, and Liza Conley and I started a formal program with a real solid curriculum. It's a 5-week after-school program, which was our signature program. It's 14 hours where kids come to us, and it's a fee-based program. Each one is 2 hours long, and we go visit a farmer's market, or if I go to a school where we can't get to the market, I have a farmer come to us. And just as you do with finances, we give them money, we put them in teams, have them go around, find out what's seasonal, what's available, how much do things cost, because kids have no idea, of course. I've had a few kids come up and say to me, I would give them a certain recipe and some money in an envelope. And they would come back and say, I'm not buying the fish, it's too expensive. I was like, well, that's what your recipe is. I'm like, do you know how much it is? Yep, I do. So anyways, kids were great. I just wanted the whole social experience too, of food as a social experience. I felt, being a mother of my own with 2 kids who are now adults, grown up, that there isn't enough time where we actually sit down at the table together and really sort of enjoy what we've cooked and talk to one another. So a piece of my program is, at the end of each class, we have cooking, we have an environmental piece, and then we actually sit down together and we talk about what we've done. So that's why my program started, where each one is 2 hours long, and it's great. So we do a farmer's market. I have nutritionists who come in and explain to the kids what a healthy meal is. It might be seasonal, but what's healthy. We do a lot of Food Network style challenges, which are great fun. And then the kids are challenged on the 4th class to come up with a local seasonal menu that's nutritionally balanced, that they must then cook. I do handwritten formal invitations that go back out to the parents where they can invite their parents and friends back. And we cook, and we have a dinner party. So it is a catered event, linen tablecloths, we set the tables, we learn where the fork, the knife, and the spoon go, and then they invite their parents back. And I have to say, just like your salad class there, it's empowering. It's, that the kids can do this. It is a catered event with fifth graders. And some of the parties have been huge. You've done a bunch with us that have been really crazy big, where we go into school kitchens, and some of them are much smaller. But I think it's a wonderful program, and I think that it works. I see that it makes a difference in kids' lives, and I have some kids who do it with me in 4th and 5th grade and want to keep working with me, and they come and they intern, and they go through college even and come back and work. So it really does work. What I found then, and I'm going to go through the slideshow in just a second though, is that I kept wanting to move the program from just 5th grade. I've been doing this for about 14 years now. And in the beginning, I home-based in Lexington, and I wanted to do all the public schools in Lexington before we moved out, which we did. We got into all the elementary schools. But then we tried to move the program up to middle school and high school. And what happened, which is kind of funny, is I applied for a grant with Mass General and Spalding, and we actually did get it. It's a 5-year grant that we are now 5 years into to work with an underserved population in Charlestown. Awesome. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me, but I submitted to do this party, the dinner party project, with 4th and 5th graders in Charlestown. What actually, as many of you might know, doesn't always happen the way you had hoped. They gave me preschoolers, like age 3, 4, 5. And I was like, whoa, I don't have any curriculum for that. But I have to say, it was honestly one of the best things. Everybody I consulted with said, instead of moving the program up, start children younger. And it was a tough year, I have to say, coming up with curriculum for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. But we did it, and I feel that if you can sort of educate the child, maybe not so much with 3rd graders, but with the older kids, it does filter back to the parents. And I try very hard to have programming where parents are involved. When we do our big dinners, we invite volunteer parents to come on back into the kitchen and help. If anybody wants to chaperone on a field trip, because I really feel like it's not just educating the child, it can work as a whole family. And it's fun. It's lots of fun. Yeah, so that grant was awesome. I'll be sad when that ends this year, but it did give us 5 years in Charlestown, and our goal there was to get more fruits and vegetables into the kids, and whole grains, and it has worked, and it is amazing. I just started back up again today down there, and we do lots of classes down there. So we have, last year, Kids Cooking Green taught just over 2,552 students in our kitchen classrooms. I move around in 22 different towns in Boston and surrounding Boston. So 1,500 of those students did come from underserved communities, not only Charlestown, but others as well. So for me, that's sort of the challenging part. My programs, the dinner party, and other programs in lots of schools around here are fee-based. And so if people can pay for them, that's awesome. But I love being in the underserved communities, but getting funding for that is tricky. So we have started a few things with Kids Cooking Green where we do some fundraising, and we call that Fund for City Schools, and that enables us to do more than just the fee-based stuff as well. So I have a slideshow presentation here to show you guys that I did not put together. And this was a class that I did in Lexington at Bridge School. And after the kids took the class, it became a classroom project for them to put together their own PowerPoint presentation. And I talked to Kim and said, could we please get the music going? Because what they did is they invited me on the last day of school to their assembly, and I didn't know that this was going to happen. And they played it. So there is a soundtrack that we're not going to be able to hear tonight, but it's a real boom, 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 really loud.
Anybody who remembers like
If-
basketball
yeah.
music, dun, 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 dun.
Right.
That's what
So
you got.
that's exactly what it is. And this is their version of what I do. So it's not fancy. The photographs are sort of a little bit home done, but I love it. So just imagine the noise in the back there, and let's see if I can get it to go. Oops, I think am I going the wrong way? All right, so the first class we always do, and I go into classrooms. So here we are in an art room. All that I require is that we have a room with no carpet, electrical outlets that might not blow a fuse, and a hand sink for sanitation. I give them real knife skills. We do real knives. We try to put together like an apple and cheese, which is something that seems so simple, but kids tend not to put those things together. It makes a healthy snack, and we start out. The kids are awesome. We went to the farmer's market here where they were challenged to buy certain things, and we also do a fruit smoothie challenge. I do have winners. Again, I'm going to go through it quick. We talk about what things are. Because we have Dave's Fresh to help us out, we always do pasta. So like here in the fall, we'll do a butternut squash ravioli. And we won't eat these in class. It'll be something that the kids make and then take home so they can cook with their families. We give them cooking instructions. We'll do like a sage brown butter sauce where we put the sage right in there. All you need is the butter, and the kids love to go home and cook it with their families. So it really does, we try to make that connection as often as possible to include parents and family. Fruit smoothie challenge. After they meet with the nutritionist, they come up with the best tasting fruit smoothie challenge using seasonal fruits and vegetables, butternut squash. We try to get them, as I said, either to a farmer's market or to a farm. This class went to Codman Farm and met with the farmer. There's sort of the pictures are kind of all over here. And the farmer here, can't remember exactly, some rice and beef dish, which was yummy. They meet with the nutritionist. We involve parents again who come on in and give us some help. This was Lourdes, who used to make mozzarella. I don't know if any of you know her, but she came in and made fresh mozzarella with the kids. Yep, lots of questions about what animals eat. I know. And there they are. A little messy. That was our classroom there out in the hallway too. Sometimes that's what I get, a hallway. So this is what they said. Week number 1. What are local foods? Well, you guys can read them. So they got it pretty much right on. We got there. We got to the Codman Farm. The farmer was out because the goats or the pigs, they had gotten out of their pens and they were running all over the place. Oh, it was the goats. I have 3 different nutritionists that work with me as well. And what I like about this program is I continue to learn with the kids. Every time I meet a new chef or I meet a farmer, I sort of feel like we all learn together. And just yesterday I was in Newton actually, and I was making pasta, showing them how it's made, putting it out on the table, and I always say, I say to the kids, so how should I do it? Should I show you how to make it first in a big glass bowl so they could see, or should I just throw it right down on the table like, the old Italian grandmas do? And they're like, it's funny, some classes they're sort of timid and they want you to do it in the bowl, and this class was throw it on the table, the eggs might fall on the floor. But then what came from that was they started talking about grandmas. And there was this whole conversation. We ended up going around to each of the kids about what their grandmas bake with them or cook with them. It was really wonderful. And that's it. There you go. What I do. Oh, one other thing I just wanted to say real quick. I feel like I'm coming full circle here. I was telling Vittorio, one of my first jobs after I graduated from culinary school, I started a catering company. And it happened to be right here in Winchester on Swanton Street many, many, many years ago. So I feel like this is sort of somewhat of a home base here too. So.
Hello, everyone. Well, I don't even know where to start. I have quite a long career at this point for a young guy. I currently operate chef, finance, beverage, do all the program, plus I still farm. Les Baillet restaurant in Boston for 40 years. It's been around. And I have two by career, but actually I purchased Les Baillet 30 years ago. But do you have the pointer, actually? Yes. So how did I end up here speaking with all of you if I'm a high-flying chef? Well, I don't know if you call them humble New England roots or what you, wait a minute, going backwards. Okay. There we go. Anyway, I'm a connector to chefs. And why am I a connector to chefs, to farms, is I feel I'm a farmer, maybe first. I don't know if I'm a cook or a gardener or a cook, but I grew up, that's me, on a farm in New Hampshire. That's early 60s, not to date myself too much, but very early 60s. Very, very early. But that's harvest time, and I'm probably 3 years old there. And so my folks, my great-grandmother was a great chef and entrepreneur, and she taught my grandmother to cook. And I grew up with my grandparents, talking about cooking with your grandparents. I grew up cooking with my grandparents and farming with them. So I got these sensibilities about New England, the seasons, cooking, and growing. So what did that lead to? Well, I decided I'm going to go all in with 4 restaurants at the time. I had Solitaire, if anyone ever went there, plus a bakery division, plus a catering division, and a 14-acre farm to boot in Essex, Massachusetts at Apple Street. And my story is a little different, but I got great satisfaction in growing, the love of teaching. My forte, I guess, is teaching, which really drives the chase to perfection on my teams. And I did that on the farm too, and I love teaching. So I would teach my restaurant team in total, front of the house, back of the house, anywhere from 50 to at one point I had 400 people that worked with me, and they all trudged to the farm, and maybe they thought it was trudging. I thought it was skipping. But I taught them farming techniques, how to harvest, how to cultivate, how to plant, and then how to cook with it and spontaneously out of the beauty of what we grew. So I was a connector to my team. Apple Street Farm was a community farm, so meaning the gates were always open to the community. They could come and go as they pleased. And I had CSA for anywhere from 40 to 100. I had a meat share. I grew about 3,000 meat birds. I had a slaughter license. The FDA showed up at my barn and said, "What gives you the right to have a slaughter license?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, this is a match for me." So I got a slaughter license. Then I decided I had goats, milking goats, and I decided I wanted a raw milk license. So the same thing. Boy, they dug their heels even more in the raw milk license, but I did not give up. So it was a community farm for raw milk for goats, eggs. I had 150 to 200 hens. We had probably 7 or 8 acres under plow with satellite fields, 3 greenhouses, and I became a connector to chefs, restaurants, restaurant groups. showing that farm to table is, they can do it. We can do that. I can connect you. I will deliver to you. I got probably my high watermark was 40 units that I was delivering to and sustaining. Trying to sustain the financial end of working farm, I learned a lot. Almost impossible. The more I decided I would expand and grow and do this and do that, I would still not break even. So it was very hard, a lot of hard work. I lived there and I worked in the city 6 days a week, 7 days a week. So it was quite a thing. But I became a connector with the community and with chefs and restaurants. I did sell the farm and all my equipment to all my farm buddies in Essex, Ipswich, Hamilton, all the North Shore. Moved down the street and bought property that I could farm myself, very small, do it 100% myself, and I harvest every other day for l'Espagne and deliver and inspire the entire team and hopefully the guests. I move their souls with it. So that's how I connect. That's my story. This is Apple Street Farm. This is our greenhouses, seedlings, our fields, all organic, sustainable farm, made our own dirt. And it was a beautiful 8 years that I did it, and connecting with the community. I'm a beekeeper. I'm still a beekeeper. I love my bees. I love my honey, the after product, but I actually use it mainly to increase my crop viability by 60%. Farm dinners, I did that. I started the farm to table type of concept in the early 80s at the Apple Street, at Princeton Inn in Princeton, Massachusetts, where I was a chef and general manager. And I went to Vermont, New Hampshire, and sometimes Maine once a week. Got my lamb, my eggs, my produce, brought it back to the restaurant, cooked it, went back the next week. I did that for years. And I brought those farms to Boston to my colleagues and to sustain them, and told my colleagues, you need to order from them. So I not only, so that was early, that was the early 80s. I started that in 1983, and I've never looked back. And that's really my hallmark. That's what makes me tick, is it's not the awards. I guess I have a lot. But what makes me tick is what comes from the farms on a daily basis and how can I create and be inspired by that. So these are some of the dishes. I'm kind of a New England cook with people would say a flair, but I'm really, with oysters and a leek, grilled leek, came up with this vegetable ash thing that kind of went crazy on the worldwide, I guess. And then these are some of the dishes, just local products. Some of the hens I love goats, and that's trying to convince. I have 5 children, so I taught my children knife skills that actually go to school and teach kids knife skills, and the teachers get back to me. So teaching children is like the most inspiring thing. I wish I did more of that, and I do that with my 5 children, but that's the best. This is a few Apple Street menus. I really went crazy with multiple courses and had a blast just creating right from the garden, everything. I grew, I had pigs, hogs. I did hogs, I did geese. Some of the vegetables, and that's it. So that's my story. It's kind of long, I'm sorry, but hopefully you could feel the passion And I really want to continue to connect and do this for farms such as this and throughout New England. And I'm actually starting a new concept that's going to be prepared foods from all local farms from that type of concept. So I'm even going even deeper into that field, but that's where I am now and hopefully in the future. So thank you for listening to me and being here tonight.
So I do not have a PowerPoint, but I'm just here to just introduce myself. I'm David Bazirgan. I'm the chef at Bambara restaurant in Cambridge, Mass. And I would say my connection here is I live right down the street, and my son went to farm camp here. We've taken care of the chickens here. The style of cooking I do is very much, market driven. Been doing not quite as long as Chef Frank, but for quite a while, and actually just moved back to the Boston area 2 years ago. I was out there in San Francisco for 13 years, and when I left here, the chef community didn't have nearly as many options as far as working with farms and whatnot. So, I think it's just been so amazing to come back and see. How far we've come along, and just not just the chef community, but the general public, all of the farmers markets, and it's just really, really nice to see, and it's been amazing. So, just going to welcome everybody up, and we have some questions we're going to ask. So, yeah.
Shuffle around some chairs.
Okay.
Great. So, just so everybody can hear me. Well, let's actually give a round of applause just to have everybody.
You guys.
And Dave's gonna basically kind of lead off the discussion, but I'll kind of mill around too. So after we get a couple of questions going, we'll take some from the audience. And if you're farther in the back, or I'll kind of point to you, and we can we'll get the ball rolling. So.
All right. So the first question I have here is, how did you decide to become a chef? This is an open question, so whoever wants to chime in.
I'll take that one. When I was growing up, I also grew up around a lot of food. Farm. We had one pig a year. We had one goat a year, and we turned everything into the pig into all sorts of prosciutto and sausages and everything else for the year. And then we had chickens, we had rabbits, and it was not a farm, by the way. This was just regular living in Tuscany, where I grew up. And that didn't necessarily inspire me to be a chef or anything like that, but it certainly did teach me how to eat well, and appreciation of food in general. I grew up around, cooking outside in brick ovens. So I built a brick oven in my house, And the thing is, but one of the things that really got me to really start cooking is the sort of like the infinite amount of possibilities. That's really it. I'm just not a person that can stay still really for more than like a second or so. So, and going into a place that I would have to work and do X, Y, and Z, and then do it again the next day, just not something that I could deal with really. So, and just when I started looking into food and really just seeing the possibilities that was just absolutely never ending, and still, I've been in the business for 25, 30 years, and still wake up tomorrow and I'm excited. I'm literally just want to go to work and be able to create some new dish that I found on his website. Just kidding.
Kind of. We all do that.
No, what we do. But that's it. It really is just the infinite amount of possibilities that really got me into being a chef.
Fantastic. That's awesome. All right. So, how do you view the role of chef during this particular time?
Well, we all walks of life make a society, but with the food movement and trying to keep our farms, our local farms, active in supply line, active to the community, without these large agri companies in the Midwest fracturing that the community needs, that food source, and God forbid anything happens, that we need a food source locally to sustain us. I think that is the most important thing, and for me, making everyone aware and activate the idea of being able to go to your community farm or farm near you and be part of a CSA or pick your own or bring your family to a community garden and connecting. I think that is really so important in this day and age that we're in. So, I mean, there's so much, but I think as a chef, making that awareness by being a leader, by purchasing and creating and stimulating people's passion for your art, your craft, whatever you'd like to call it, through sustaining and buying locally, is a big way to contribute and connect.
Thank you. Let's see. What is most satisfying to you about your work? I guess we'll just kind of go around.
I feel I have the passion. I've worked in lots of restaurants, but I don't consider myself a chef. But the same passion that you feel for what you do, I feel with the kids. And I felt that first at the farmers market. When I started that many years ago, it was just that connection with the farmers and the vendors, and becoming, like I think happens often in kitchens, you become a family. And to me, that is incredibly satisfying. And to be able to do the connections, as you're saying, kids and families, and get them to go to a farmer's market, bring them to a farm, and just all of those things that are so important on a small scale, I think, but crucial for the bigger picture. That's
Right, truly creating those real connections from the ground up. Absolutely.
And I just wanted to say, chef really is defined by being like a boss. So you're all great cooks. Everyone's a cook. A chef just happens to lead a brigade who's the boss. So.
It means chief in French.
And I was a little different from
chef, engineer, whatever.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household where my mother did everything possible not to cook. That was like, get me out of the kitchen.
Right.
When she went to college, she wanted to be an interior decorator, and my grandmother was like, nope, you're going to do home economics. So it's funny, when I then decided after graduating from college to go to cooking school, she was like, what?
Where did you get the bug to cook? Was it while you were in school?
It was after, because I didn't get it at home, and I think it was travel, sort of that Italian culture, though, where you all sort of sit down and there's the sharing. And in Italy, of course, wherever you go, you travel with kids, and the restaurant.
Everything's based around
the restaurant's
where are you
closed.
going to eat next?
Yeah, but no problem. We'll open the doors. Come on in. What can we make for you? So I think those sorts of things inspired me.
Awesome.
I can add to the satisfaction part of it. I think, a lot of satisfying things especially running a restaurant. I think there's like short term and long term. And the short term is like you have, it's probably like maybe more like 10% of the time that you have that kitchen that is just running like perfectly. And everything, the food is coming out just on time, and everybody's working really hard.
Hopefully tonight.
Hopefully tonight. And everything is working like it's just a perfectly synchronized machine. It doesn't happen that often, right? Because there's just too many moving parts. right? But when that happens, you have those nights, it's just so incredibly satisfying. Then of course, you look in the dining room and you see people's faces and, some of the oohs, some of the ahs, and just that is just extremely satisfying. And then there's always long-term satisfaction, by doing some of the programs that we do. I have, kids, still say hi to me in the streets, and they go, oh, Chef Ettore, I was doing this and I was cooking the other day. I'm like, and who are you? They're usually like 10 feet tall, and I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah, we did the kids, program, yada, yada. So that is an extremely long-term satisfaction, but it's really very satisfying.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. What are some of the frustrations you've had about others' lack of understanding about food and cooking in the food system? Where have you felt the disconnect between people and food?
Well, can I go?
Please, go for it.
I feel that sometimes cooking, we're all here, and I'm hoping you guys all appreciate it, but that it is undervalued. And I find it in a lot of the suburbs that I go to sometimes, that it's either not academic enough, it's just not important. The nutrition piece of it and the cooking piece of it is not important. And I find that incredibly frustrating. To me, it's like you teach your kid how to cross the street, you teach your kid how to do all sorts of things. Cooking should be a piece of it as well. It's so important on so many levels.
School lunch.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not go there.
I just want to add one frustration, and that's the appreciation for well-grown produce or meats or whatever on farms, and people don't understand the price ratio of great product that farmers put out and say, what, I'm not paying that. I'm going to go and go to Costco and get this for this. And that's extremely frustrating, and that's been an uphill battle from day one in my career. Though it's gotten better, we have a long, long way to go. I mean, even an egg is the perfect protein, and grown in the right way, it should be twice as valuable monetarily as it is now. And that's across the board, and the understanding of that, with, friends. I have tons of friends that come from all walks of life, and in just daily conversations, I can see it, I can hear it. And I'm not a preacher, I don't say anything, but it does grate on me, and I hope that changes.
Yeah, it's like, wish you could just, get people to, spend a little bit more, eat a little bit less, but just, it's, quality over quantity, but it's not that easy,
Yeah, it's a struggle, even in the restaurant business, when you pay a lot, and you want to pay a lot to small farmers, and you put together a dish, composition, and it is expensive. And how do you stay in business, and how do you maintain your moral, what you are to the core, and it's very, very difficult all the way around. I'm trying to start a company right now for prepared foods, and it's the company's motto is to support local farms wherever this retail shops pop up, and it's an oxymoron because I have to deliver well-grown, sustainable local farms and make it affordable that people will actually purchase it. So it's a challenge. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
I'll buy some.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question. I thought that was good. What do you believe have been some of your most successful teaching moments?
I can jump into that one too.
Okay.
I feel that the grant that I got in Charlestown was complicated. Certainly challenged me to come up with curriculum, but it also challenged me. One of the stipulations with the grant was that you needed to work with 3 or more people that were already doing something in Charlestown. And to me, that was actually very difficult. Somebody said to me in the beginning, oh, so you don't play well in the sandbox, huh? And I was like, well, no, I don't know if that's it exactly, but maybe. But it really, I came up with this program. I was very committed to do it a certain way, and it was difficult. And I find now, though, that it was honestly, again, one of the best things, because as we're all talking about, for change to happen, it can't just be me going into a classroom. It needs to be reinforced by many different people in the community on all different levels. And so really, really hard, but really satisfying. I now connect with the school, the elementary school across the street, the preschool, some of the healthcare centers. There's lots of people that now reach out, and we are working together, and it's pretty amazing what can be accomplished.
Well,
Not easy, but.
Yeah, I've had some learning moments. Just my cooking camp, just in the summer. Within the first hour, I had somebody bleeding, somebody threw up, and the other one fainted, for real. This is 3 out of 12 kids. I almost called you on that day. No, but like the fainted was real faint. It wasn't like no, like boom. Like, whoa, what's happening? Nice down, everybody. Let's chill. Like sit down. Like it was a pretty cool experience.
So did you keep cooking?
Oh yeah, we kept on going. We just calmed everything down, and then we just slowly started cooking again, and then we started keeping everything going, and then it was great, and everything after that was great. But it's amazing though. But the reason for that though is like because it's peer pressure in a way, right? Because somebody was actually, it was a simple gesture of let me rephrase it, doing something that you just don't like. And that was the body response was to faint. Because you're doing something you don't like, but you do it because other people are doing it, so you're doing it. So then their body response was to actually faint. And what the person was doing, it was touching a tomato, a raw tomato. Now, it might be shocking to us and all that. It wasn't like we're deboning a rabbit. Right? Because they're cute on top of it, and there's all of that, right? No, it's a tomato, right? But talk about disconnect and all that stuff. So it was, but it was definitely an interesting experience.
Intense.
It was intense, to say the least.
What do you think your greatest impact on others has been?
I guess I'll speak. My biggest impact is just teaching young, I call them walk-ons, or out of culinary school, walk-ons, or like I went to school for other endeavors. I wanted to be oceanographic, biologist, and so, but I always cooked from when I was, started cooking when I was 13 in a camp to all the way through grade school, college, and just said, I got to cook. So, but anyway, so my greatest satisfaction is seeing them come to me, and my brigades will stay together 3 to 5 years, usually intact. And then there's a big turnover because they're a family. And when one decides to leave, they all kind of follow because, they're a family, and, there's eventually a breakup, and I retool. I'm probably on my 6th or 7th generation of brigades. But to see them become chefs in restaurant groups, own their own restaurants, she's all across the country. And sometimes if I'm in a city or I'm in a place where I'm really hungry and this is a great restaurant and I can't get a table, I go in the kitchen and I wait for someone to say, "Chef, what are you doing here?" And then I'm trying to get a table. So I'm trying to eat your food, man. And they said, oh, I take care of you. So anyway, it's happened quite a few times. But so that's my greatest satisfaction, is seeing the people I work with becoming really successful and really happy. And that floats my boat. And I guess when it comes to farmers, the same thing, seeing them grow sustainable, finding new outlets, and big smiles when I come see them, to pick up, because I pick up at farms on a weekly basis and drive them to the restaurant. So all that involvement to see them grow up and fly is what is amazing. So
Yeah, just saying that in the chef community in general, just knowing a bunch of chefs and cooks who have come up through Les Paillet is it's pretty amazing. Speaks volumes about you. So
yeah,
nice work.
It's fun. Yeah,
It's great that there aren't a lot of chefs who've just had a restaurant and stayed with that restaurant and have been successful and have stuck to the plan and really stayed true to it, stayed true to yourself and in the concept. So it's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
How do you see chefs, yourself and others, working within the local food system? Additionally, what are some of the greatest challenges and rewards for doing so?
Well, I think in general, we just need to see more crazy people like us. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, that's really what it is. And even the Seed to Play program, I wanted to expand it, and I wanted to get more schools in Winchester and maybe other schools. And I really, it is possible, but the hard way I learned that it's really hard to find people that are willing to do a lot for nothing. It really is. So, I've done this for 7 years. I mean, it's a lot of work at the end of the day. And, it's just to see a smile on the face. That's my pay. So, I mean, that's that.
It's amazing.
But we need more of this, basically.
I agree.
But at the same time, the chef career is so demanding, right? If you're awake, you're pretty much working.
Think about the time that you're putting into it.
Yeah.
Family, the restaurants.
Right, now you have your own kids.
A lot of time.
Yeah, and it's the time, but we still, even though we still need it, and I think we should need more. If it's not chefs, then it's people from the community itself to be able to, volunteer their time. I've had a woman who's super amazing, helping me out with the garden, and she's gonna be gone next year. You're invited.
Another one.
So it's gonna be hard for me. So it's gonna be a lot more work too.
That's a really good question on how to get these programs in the community through schools where you get the children involved and understand the seasons, the products that come from it, and what to do with it is, I think, the foundation of what we need. And it's so great, like the two of you that are building that, and we just need to get that going even more. And how to do that, really, I think it could be done through an all-out effort, but you need to have a committee and do all that. So
yeah, I think things are changing, just as you said. I see it in Boston school lunches. It's changing slowly, but people are paying attention. People are looking at it. People are trying to make changes. And I mean, sometimes one of the frustrating things I find is there's a lot of people doing sort of what I'm doing and doing what you're doing too. And can't we all just come together? Because we're all doing little bits and pieces of it, which is awesome. And we need to keep doing it. But if we could come together as a group, smaller groups, come together as one to make a bigger difference. I don't know how you make all that happen, but I know that there's an effort and people are trying to make it happen. So I'm hopeful.
Me too. Moving on to the next question. Are there any social trends that you've witnessed that have helped or hurt your work?
Social trends.
I guess like, is that,
Social trends,
media?
like food
Social media
trends,
or-
like well, there's always allergies and things like that have kind of shifted how we cook nowadays too, and I think it's been shifted in a good way as well. To be much more sensitive to how and what we do. Like now, even most of my dinners are actually gluten free, and I don't mean to do that. It's just how it's been going.
And it's easier to cook that way.
It is
We've
easier
discovered
and
how-
actually better. Yeah.
So yeah, that's such a good point. I think the allergy trends in society, which are a real thing, have made us better cooks.
Yeah.
The pescatarian movements and vegetarian and vegan has
Lactose.
made me lactose.
Less-
Yeah, the major
less dairy.
7, but also how people prefer to cook. I think eat has made us better cooks. And
No, it really gets you thinking. It really does.
yeah.
It really
Yeah,
gets you thinking because even just last week, somebody requested my tomato tasting, but they wanted the vegan version of it. I'm like, whoa.
I think earlier on, maybe when it started to take off, there was a bit more pushback, but now there's definitely more embracing.
Right. I
which is
find that
good.
a lot. I get tons of allergies. And so in a class, I try to ask ahead of time and then just like a menu or whatever, come up with not necessarily an alternative for that child, but something that we can all do together so that 1 or 2 kids that have allergies don't feel left out. But it challenges me sometimes to make 9 lessons in a row that don't have dairy or don't have sometimes beans, don't have all sorts of things together. But I do feel like it's hard. But then
That's
But
the-
at the end of the day, I think social trends are always going to happen, and it's up to you whether you adapt to them and make the best of it, or you just beat your head against the wall. It's not the two. So.
well, we're in hospitality, right? So-
Right.
But I like the ones like kale. When you think of like social trends like that, where they're pushing a particular vegetable. Like how long ago was it nobody ate kale, and then all of a sudden there were real sort of social trends. Eat kale. It came up all over the place. Now like you can't get away from kale. Brussels sprouts. The same.
brassicas, basically.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Awesome. What are some of the lessons you've learned through trying to teach others about food, and what works and what hasn't?
Be open-minded. Think about things sort of from a different angle. I love it when I get sort of a cultural thing, again, sort of like challenging with allergies, but different cultures look at food a little differently, and to try to incorporate that into what I do as well.
Understanding that not everyone learns the same way.
Right.
Which
But that's what I love about cooking,
It'd be
because
great
it's
if
so
schools did that.
hands-on, and you can give a cutting board and a knife to a bunch of different kids, teach them the same exact thing, and everything can look different on the cutting board.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think definitely being patient, not yelling, it helps. Yeah.
Right. And understanding that everybody does come at this from different angles. I remember at the farmers market when I was working in Lexington, sort of like I had many aha moments after being there for a long time. We started out, we wanted to be a producer-only market. Well, what does that mean? So we concentrated an awful lot on the vegetables. Okay, that I get. And then it was like however many years later, and I was market manager, and it was like, as you said, what about the meat? Like, what's actually happening here with me?
cheese.
Cheese, all this stuff. But why didn't I think about that ahead of time? I had been market manager. It was like, why was I only thinking about the vegetables? So I think that everybody thinks about things at different times and angles, and a lot of it is education.
Yeah,
just getting people to think about stuff.
Yeah, and very quickly, I've learned that there are very few bad ideas that other fellow colleagues in my kitchen come up with. I've learned that I really listen to everything. Even my wife saying, "Why are you doing that? You should be doing it this way." like, okay, great. Okay. So I've learned how to be passive and just like, sure, go for it, try it out. And you know, a lot of it's a winner. So
Yeah.
I've really learned to evolve every day with the people around me, which are a lot of young people and a lot of energy. So that's really sustained me. And so it's listening and letting those thoughts come in. So all of you, don't be afraid in that kitchen. Just go for your idea. I support you 100%.
I have a question for you. Sure. So you, at the beginning, you said that you were a market-driven cooking. Well, what is that?
I like to go to the markets, drive to the market. No. Yeah, basically, just always thinking about what's in season, what's coming up in season. Everything revolves around that.
Okay, so I have a follow-up to that question. To what extent do you make suggestions to farmers saying, could you grow more of this or that? Can you give some examples of that?
Here has been sort of figuring out what's happening, just getting used to more hyper-seasonal. Whereas in San Francisco, seasons drag, and it was a lot easier to sort of understand. I was out there for a long time. So now just really, I haven't added too much, really. There's so many great things growing. But some do ask. You know, I have one woman, Eva, down in Dartmouth, and she so she'll say, you know, if there's anything interesting that you're not seeing, but there's so much good stuff right now that as far as actual new products, we haven't planted that seed. The question was based around the obesity with kids and how do we work with that?
Right. Well, for me, I think too, one of the things was starting younger. As I said, I tried to push the program up to middle school and high school to start younger and to educate both the parents and the kids. I stress that we're trying to do local fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And honestly, if you just sort of stick with that, it makes a big, huge difference in the diet. For me, some of the problems I come across is when I'm working with underserved communities, some of the products that I would love for them to be able to purchase are just too expensive. So it's really tough. And I mean, I try to do the same programming, but I really do have to adapt my recipes for those types of communities to make sure that I'm not putting anybody off, that, you know, it's something that they can afford, that it still works. It's simple, it's easy, there's not a lot of equipment at home, not as much as some other places, so I try to think all of those things through and come up with something that's easy to get and affordable and tastes good.
Right. But obesity also comes, a lot of times, with, you know, the lack of education, but also the lack of options, right? Sometimes there's a good chance that you could be very well obese, but you live in a place where the closest thing to you is a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And so that's where you buy your food, and it's highly processed, there's sugar everywhere, and there's all those things. So the bigger idea would be to really get a bigger network, but it can only be done through schools. I mean, it's really pretty much the only way. I mean, we can all do a little bit, right? I've gone to schools actually, and I've done I bring like a soda, and then I have brought the physical amount of sugar, which is 39 grams on a soda, and I show them what 39 grams looks like, because 39 grams doesn't mean anything. Because first of all, we're in America, it's like pounds and stuff, right? So we don't know what grams look like, right? But so when you put it next to the soda, so if you drink one soda a week, this is what you're getting. And then I brought, this is 5 sodas a week, and then this is what it looks like in a year, right? And it's roughly like a 50-pound bag of sugar, and I dumped it right on a big bucket or something like that. So they give them the visual, right? So, but again, unless you are, educating people about it, and even adults too, because again, we just don't think sugar is everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that really leads to obesity. That's definitely a huge issue, but we don't realize how much sugar and how it's spread out. But at the end of the day, like to your question, it's really about getting the bigger network, which is I really do think is through schools, and to make sure that it does go. But
And I do think that the state of Massachusetts, with the healthy incentive program these days too, that does help. I think that's been a big boost to farmers as well as SNAP, and being able to use those dollars now at farmers markets makes a difference as well. You know, you can only buy certain products with those, and I think, I don't know if there's anyone else here that can address that, but it's certainly made a difference at the markets that I see and for the farmers that are participating in those programs. So that's helpful on a larger level at least. That shows a little progress.
I think also the subsidies to the big corn market is a real problem in this country. Until that's solved and the Farm Bill is readjusted in Washington, we're going to be struggling with this for decades until we find a way to take our tax dollars and put it back into the communities for small farms to have food sources for underserved populations and redirect their eating habits. But I just see Washington being at the root of this problem, and it's got to change, or we're going to be dealing with this for another half a century at least.
Thank you.
So we sort of raised over the topic of school lunch, as we sort of like shrugged it off, like how could we ever tackle that one, you know? But can we? And one of my big views with it is not so much the food, but the lack of time that's given to students to eat.
Yeah, a whole different
and it's
issue.
such a missed opportunity, I think, for just being around the table together and not having to just cram food in your mouth.
I agree. I don't know. Yeah, that all comes down to MCAS and all sorts of other stuff.
Once again, Washington has really made the teachers so frightened and the schools under the gun that they're taking more and more free time away from the children and really bringing their anxieties up tenfold about being in school and being around that pressure. And once again, it can't be solved overnight, but go to your Congress person, write letters, complain. It's got to be grassroots.
There are some exciting things happening, I think, in the Boston Public School right now, too. I don't know if you've heard about, there's a few schools, I think there's 30 of them now, where they actually are putting in kitchens, because most of the Boston Public Schools don't have kitchens. And they're preparing food.
Wow.
In each community, at sort of the high school, like in East Boston, I volunteer at one of these, and then they do bring it over, they put a small kitchen in, and they're giving kids choices too, which is very interesting. They go through the line, and I go to volunteer just to help the kids see what's there, because usually, you know, you're given, here you go, done. But these kids, as they walk through, they're given a protein and they're given a starch, and then there's a whole assortment of vegetables where they need to pick which ones they want. And so, again, it seems to be happening, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I hope it keeps on growing, because what we serve for lunch still, you know, nationwide, what we serve for lunch is just not food. It's not food, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's shriveled up stuff. And you know, people, I mean, it's stuff too.
Well, there's no cooking.
But it all comes down to money, right? It always comes down to the dollar. You know, what is the absolute cheapest thing that you could buy, right? And that's it. So the school has, you know, 50 cents for lunch, and that's it. What could you possibly get for that? And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. People need to, you know, put value to food, dollar value as well, you know? And that's not something that we have done. But the problem is now our kids are growing up, you know, eating this lunch, and of course it's going to taste good because it's just going to be so salty and so sweet that they're going to love it, right? But it's really, really damaging, you know. But at the same time, you know, if we don't but how to tackle this, it really is a huge task because it's really hard to get people on board, basically, is really what the problem is.
Their bottom lines are hurting right now. So what are they doing? They're buying up all these companies that have a healthy feel like Annie's pasta. And they're ruining them, but they're not putting their name on it.
Right, of course.
Right.
You know, but they're trying to maintain their bottom line by looking like they're healthy. So you're absolutely right. They're running what people eat in this country. Yeah. Yeah.
You should see my house. My kids yell at me like all the time, like, there is no food. Open the fridge. You'll see the food is there, not on the cupboards. Speaking for myself, I don't have a lot, to be honest, because between the program, the family, the 2 restaurants, and everything else, I live within 5 miles radius. All I do is like circle. And yeah, I wish that we could figure out how to get together and brainstorm some different things. And I think you will get a call from me, I think, pretty soon, because I would definitely like to go, forward and do something that's a little bit bigger. Even, like, again, even with this garden, I wanted to continue, and I wanted to do something bigger, and I wanted to, keep on going with other schools. But it's extremely hard to find those people that have the same values and interests and willing to give up other things, because at the end of the day, something's got to give, but you have to be able to, what am I going to give up in order for me to have that meeting with the 3 of us today? So something's got to give, and we have to find the right people, and it's definitely difficult.
Another related thought about the craft brewers, they've sort of figured out how to get people to pay more money for a better product.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll pay $16, I'll pay $4 a bottle because it tastes really good. So maybe even there's some cross fertilization there, what they've found to work that help in other areas of the local food.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm trying to work on a plan like that with the brand, my brand, and try to bring real value through quality. So yeah, you're right. And maybe in my next life, I'll run for senator.
There you go.
And I will tear up that farm bill, redirect all those funds.
Do it now.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I wanted to go that high, but.
Okay. Well, I think it's been a good evening so far. It's probably the end of the evening, as I can't speak words anymore. Let's just give another big round of applause for these.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you all so much for coming. And I know it's kind of a late night, but and also to that point, I think it was a great little plug too, because again, like thinking about what we might be able to do with an education center that's year round. And again, we're thinking about a lot of these things being a hub for education of these different topics: environment, food, health, nutrition. There's just, the sky's the limit, and that's going to double our capacity. So we're really excited, and also to think of it as a place to educate the educators that kind of continue to ripple effect. Again, the people who will fill these folks' shoes and continue to teach our up and coming generations. So that's really what we're all about at Rytlock Farm. So we couldn't be happier to have these folks here sharing with you, and we really want to do so much more. So keep in contact. We're always open. You can find our emails everywhere over the website. And I do have your contact information if you've left it with me, but we'll probably send a follow-up with maybe some resources from these guys. And of course, some maybe reminders about some great things. Go visit the restaurants. Definitely go check them out. Thank you all for coming. And don't be strangers. Come back to the farm anytime.
Bye.